2 or yeah, almost 3. Now this is CIN3. Okay. If the malignant cells breach, or rather are found in the upper layers, na the upper layer mismo, yung doon sa pinakatuktok niya, then we can call it squamous carcinoma inside too. Okay, take note that what is important is that it does not breach the basement membrane. So hindi pa siya invasive. It's still inside too. Okay? So CIN3 encompasses also squamous carcinoma inside too. Okay? So to be safe, if you're not sure that it's really entirely malignant, no? The entire epithelium is not malignant, then you can just play safe and say CIN grade 3. Okay? Now, this is already invasive squamous cell carcinoma, and it's the keratinizing type. Okay, because you have keratin pearls. Now, take note na that in the vulva, it's squamous cell carcinoma, well, moderately, and poorly diff. Pero pagdating sa cervix, it's keratinizing and non-keratinizing. Tapos merong third definition, which is the small cell. Okay, in small cell, it's a different matter altogether kasi some of them tend to be neuroendocrine. Okay, but they're very, very small, very, very dark. No? Unfortunately, I don't have a picture, pero they are similar. They just slightly bigger than lymphocytes. Okay, and sometimes it's very hard to diagnose without immune staining. And then this is the non-keratinizing invasive squamous cell carcinoma. You don't see any keratin pearls. Okay? Okay, now let's go to the endometrium. Okay, yung endometrium, just think about this enough. So, there are usually 3 types yung na-normal endometrium: proliferative, secretory, and atrophic. Okay, yung proliferative, in order to distinguish between proliferative and secretory, you have to look at both the glands and the stroma. With respect to the glands are usually tubular, meaning straight siya. Okay, parang test tube, kaya tubular. Okay, they tend to be straight. So pag kinat ninyo, no, longitudinally, parang pahaba siya. Pero if it's cut tangentially or cross-sectionally, magiging bilog-bilog siya. Okay, so again, you have to imagine paano kinat. Now, the stroma naman is compact. It's usually dark staining compared to secretory. Kasi the stromal cells do not have too much cytoplasm. So the nuclei are closer together. Kaya mukhang dark siya. Now this is a higher view of the glands. The glands, kasi proliferating siya, no? So they're actively proliferating. The nuclei are compressed together. Kaya ang tawag dito, pseudo-stratification. They look like they're stratified, meaning more than one layer of cells. No? But in actuality, they're just very close together, and they're trying to fit into each other like a jigsaw puzzle. So one may be higher than the other. Okay, again, the stroma has very little cytoplasm, kaya the nuclei are close together. Okay. Now let's go to secretory. Secretory phase. Since the secretory phase, natapos na yung proliferative phase niya, mas relax yung nuclei, and the growth now, since nagka-catch up na yung stroma niya, the shape now of the glands becomes spiral. They start to coil. Okay, and that's why when you look at the shape of a longitudinal section, parang nagzizigzag siya. Okay? But they're regular, no? Meaning that they're aligned to each other. Okay? They don't have different shapes. Okay? At the same time, you can even see here, even at low power, no, that the nuclei are farther apart, no, in the stroma. And that's because they have more abundant cytoplasm. Okay, now, if you look at the glands more closely, you'll see that there are vacuoles between the nucleus and the basement membrane. So, ang tawag dito ay subnuclear vacuoles. Kasi they're under the nucleus. And then, again, the cytoplasm of the stromal cells are more abundant. Occasionally, you might see or you might begin to see red cells kasi papunta na siya sa menstrual endometrium. Okay? And then the arterioles, the spiral arterioles become more developed and more thick. Okay? So those are your clues, no, to proliferative versus secretory. Now, why is it important for you to know this? It's because most, rather all of endometrial carcinomas, most endometrial carcinomas and all hyperplasias take on a proliferative pattern. Okay, sige. Let's go to the, this one is decidua. Okay, now, dito, the glands take on a parang secretory nature pa rin. But if you look at the stroma, they begin to look parang squamoid, parang flat na flat, and then really, really abundant pale staining cytoplasm. Okay, tapos yung nucleus, well, are still round and oftentimes nagiging vesicular siya. But anyway, the important thing is the cytoplasm. Ito. You get to see this alongside scrapings, of the placental tissues. Okay, so kaya ang tawag namin decidua and placental tissues sa diagnosis. Okay. Now, this is an endometrial polyp. An endometrial polyp is a localized hyperplasia. The important thing here is to recognize the fibrovascular core. Now, oftentimes, this is a whole mountain. So, ito yung part of the myometrium. Okay, and then, ito yung affected endometrium, which forms a polypoid shape. And you have large, sometimes cystically dilated glands. Okay, and then, when you look closely, there are these thick-walled blood vessels. Yan. Okay, and then the stroma of the polyp is no longer endometrial, it's fibrous. How do you know it's fibrous? It's because the shape of the nuclei are now more elongated. And it has the quality of being fibrous now. Parang mas compact siya. Mas streaming siya. You look at this, parang they're streaming into each other. They're pointing to the same direction. Okay? Yan. And of course, your blood vessels are in the middle of that cushion. Okay? So that's an endometrial polyp. You may not see the shape of the polyp, but that's okay. What is important is to recognize the fibrovascular core. Now, this is hyperplasia. Okay? Now, sa endometrial polyp and again the hyperplasias, proliferative phase is indicated. It's just that in simple endometrial hyperplasia, you get cystically dilated glands. Okay? Kaya simple, no? Hindi siya complex. The shape is simple. Okay? And the hallmark of hyperplasia is that your gland to stroma ratio is about or more than 1:1. Okay? The usual gland to stroma ratio in a normal endometrium is 1:2. So for every 1 part gland, meron kang 2 stroma. Mas abundant, in other words, yung stroma compared to the glands. But if you begin to see an equal to more than 1:1, then that's already hyperplasia. Okay. It's easily recognizable. Simple endometrial hyperplasia is easily recognizable because of the cystically dilated glands. Now you have to be careful in always. Now when you see this kind of pattern, you have to be careful to exclude an endometrial polyp, because once you see the fibrovascular core, polyp na yon. But it's practically the same. Okay? This is complex hyperplasia. Bakit complex? Kasi the shape now is complex. It's irregular. Okay? You have some areas of dilatation, but most of all, hindi siya katulad ng secretory na parang zigzag lang. Here, the shape is complex and irregular. So that is why we call it complex hyperplasia. Again, in some cases, you have to look carefully and rule out a polyp. But more often than not, complex hyperplasia is really complex hyperplasia. Okay, simple hyperplasia may not always be simple hyperplasia if you see the fibrovascular core, kasi pwedeng nakadisguise siya sa polyp. Okay. Or rather, a polyp may be disguised as simple hyperplasia. But normally, polyps do not have the irregularity of a complex hyperplasia. Okay? Now, what is the difference between complex hyperplasia with atypia versus complex hyperplasia without atypia? It's the nucleus of the glands. Okay? The nucleus of the glands, again, di ba proliferative ang pattern, ang basic pattern. So yung proliferative, let's go back to the high power view of a proliferative gland. Yan. Okay? The proliferative nucleus is oval. Okay? Kasi it's compressed, di ba? So it's very oval. But the moment they become round and plump like this, atypia na siya. Okay? And you may even see prominent nucleoli or nucleolus. Tapos lalo na pag nagiging clear yung nucleus, it becomes more visible, it becomes lighter in color. So that's a vesicular shape. Okay, a vesicular characteristic, meaning nakikita mo yung loob ng nucleus, and therefore the nucleolus and the chromatin become more visible. Okay, that is atypia. Now, how do you distinguish naman complex hyperplasia with atypia from endometrial adenocarcinoma? Simple lang, nawawala yung stroma. So once nag back to back na